Welcome to CIO Leadership Live. My name is Lucas Mearian. I'm a senior reporter for Computer World Magazine, and I'm here at the CIO 100 Symposium and Awards Show. And with me today is Yogaraj Jayaprakasam. You are the Chief Technology and Digital Officer at Deluxe. It's a business services firm processing payments, marketing, promotional products, check printing, and financial technology solutions.
Yes, we are.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. I appreciate
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
it. Absolutely. Now, I'm old enough. I remember Deluxe as just check printing.
Right.
So when you say that name, that's what I think of. But you've really diversified in the industry. Because you've evolved so much over the past decade, from legacy check printer to tech-enabled services firm, how do you see your role in driving transformation?
That's that's a fantastic question. In 2018, our current CEO took the role, and the job of his role was try to clarify the long-term strategy for the company. And what we realized in the process is check is the first alternative payment mechanism after currency, but the companies for so long focused on manufacturing as the business identity, not necessarily making alternative payment as our business.
Right.
So that's the strategy clarification that our new CEO brought in. So in 2022, when I was approached for this job, the primary need of the job is, as a manufacturing company, we use the technology as a supporting mechanism to drive the business. But now we want to pivot to becoming a payments and data company where technology becomes the product and services that we sell and not the physical paper checks that we used to produce. So my job in the company is actually driving both technology and cultural change in seeing technology as the product and service that we build and deliver, not just as using it as a support mechanism as well. So that's basically what we do inside the company. And in the last 3 years, we drove significant transformation inside technology, using technology, but also across the company in driving clarity on out of the $2 billion revenue we make. One still comes from the print side of the business, but the other $1 billion comes from merchant services, B2B payments, and data-driven marketing solutions. All underwent a massive technology transformation.
How has AI played a role in that?
So I see AI's role as a force multiplier. I have been in technology business for over 25 years now,
Yeah.
and have witnessed many technological transformations, starting with agile transformation to cloud transformation to big data transformation to platform driven transformation. I see AI's revolution now is culmination of capitalizing all the technology transformation that already took place, and now they are all converging with AI. And I see this as an opportunity to initially our focus is using AI to drive cost optimization, customer support, internal employee experience improvements. But the real work of AI is going to be fundamentally reimagining everything we do inside business. And that's what is exciting right now for me.
How do you build, or how are you building a digital first culture inside a company that historically has operated in more traditional ways?
That's a really meaningful question for me, because until I took this job, mostly I saw my role as a technology role, and I focused heavily on what is trending in technology, what is the most cutting edge architecture that we should be creating, how do you create more cloud native solution. It's all important, but they are not the one that is going to help you succeed. So end of the day, for company to truly succeed with the transformation, technology is the smaller part in my opinion. It is mostly people and culture. So what I mean by that is understanding where your company comes from, what cultural foundation that you already have, acknowledging that and leveraging that to your strength, and then driving the transformation forward is what we try to do inside the company. So let me try to explain what I mean by that. As a manufacturing company, our company was and is very deeply rooted into customer commitment, service quality, and trust as the foundational elements. So, driving a most complex project that I would find it very difficult outside, I found it relatively easy inside our company because our people are so committed to, no matter how hard the project is, doing the right thing by our customers. So, leveraging that foundation, shifting it to digital transformation, it became more of teaching them why the transformation we still drive into the digital world is still going to protect those values of customer centricity, driving trust, and caring about our community. So eventually, my role became more of combining technology with HR and transformation together, which is basically how we continue to drive it forward.
Uh, check printing, still financial services function. How do you handle the sensitive financial and marketing data, and how are you leveraging AI and analytics to create real-time value for your customers?
That's again another question. Every company has to realize that your data is your real asset. Technology comes and goes. So truly, what you have is the data that you have been building with your customer. So the approach that we have taken as part of our transformation is what I would like to call platform-driven approach. So we chose to build three different platforms for the company. That's the Deluxe data, which basically is to bring and organize companies' entire data that used to be siloed because of multiple acquisitions that we have done into a well-structured, domain-driven data model. So in simple business term, what it means is we no longer look at data as system-specific thing, but we see that as a company-specific asset. So all the customers that might be doing business with one part of our business now becomes part of one data domain. So we now know 360-degree view of the customer, what product they buy and why are they buying it. And then you can also try to understand the various type of products that we have, what stickiness it is creating, all of those things as well. So the first foundation is creating that domain-driven model in organizing the data. And there we use AI heavily as well. So in my previous job, when we had to create a data lake, it took us more than 2 years to create the first version.
Oh,
More than half of the time was spent by subject matter experts who understood specific business unit data elements. So they were heavily involved in trying to map those data elements to the new data structure. But with the invention of generative AI and large language model, we were able to use large language models to help us to do the same mapping that rather would have required subject matter experts, domain expertise, and months of their time to drive this forward. So that was the first breakthrough. But after that, it is basically applying governance on what is permissible, whether you are using this data for marketing, but even there, is it credit related data or is it generally promotional data? So applying more metadata driven permissible data rules, and on top of that applying additional AI driven insights as well. So inside the company, we look at applying those AI capabilities through three different lenses. So we apply AI for technology, which is using AI to change the way we deliver software product. Second is AI for business operations, which is using AI and our internal data to modernize and automate what we potentially do with every department. For example, finance doing month-end close used to take weeks. So month-end close supposed to be month-end. So it would rather take a couple of weeks for us to close the data. Now with modern data lake and AI, we are able to close it within a few days and no longer take weeks. So the same way, operations team is able to automate exceptions and various other things. So all pieces put together, it's organizing the data, applying the right governance model and rules, and then really looking at what business use cases that you solve through the lens of AI for tech, AI for operations, and AI for customers.
and AI helped assist in doing that.
Absolutely.
That's remarkable. So you literally, because typically it's garbage in, garbage out. So organizations need to clean the data first before they want to apply the AI to it. But in this case, you use the AI.
To clean the data as well.
Hadn't heard that one before. Interesting. Do you see AI as playing a larger role in Deluxe's offerings, perhaps in fraud detection, payment risk, customer experience personalization?
Absolutely. In the pillar that I talked about, AI for customers,
Uh huh.
it is all about leveraging AI with the way we deliver our product and services. So the example that I can give you with the service side of things, as part of the platform we built, we call it Deluxe.ai.
What is it called? I'm sorry.
Deluxe.ai.
Deluxe. Okay.
So it's an internal AI platform
Yeah.
that creates wrapper around the public LLMs and then applying our own retrieval augmented generative business rules on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we created a generative AI chatbot for the company, but then that gets customized for every business unit. So we have one chatbot,
Mm-hmm.
but it has the intelligence and awareness of every different business unit. So it appears like each business unit is having its own chatbot.
Oh,
So that's how we started to handle the customer service. So our merchant services has their own version of the DAX, what we call Deluxe AI Assistant. We call it DAX. The same thing for merchant B2B payments. We have another version that gets out to the customers as well. So that's basically more and more of how we are streamlining the customer service part of it with generative AI. But from the end customer standpoint, we have receivables automation platform. It's called R360 Plus. But the way we are using generative AI there is to apply cash application, deduction module, and even extracting invoice data and customer payment instrument information to streamline the whole process that rather human analysts would take hours and weeks. Now we are able to automate and bring more actionable intelligence into that capabilities.
is the AI that you deployed a cloud service offering, or was this internally developed?
So we use a combination of both.
Okay.
So the public cloud services that we use, what we get access to, which is typically all the publicly available large language models you get access to, which you want to take advantage of immediately. But then we built our own what we call Deluxe trust layer that basically prevents what data that we need to prevent within Deluxe reaching to the large language model, which is where the RAG or retrieval augmented generative architecture comes into picture. And then we also train some of the large language models with our own data, which then gets a flavor of our own personalization, if you may.
Has RAG let you down in any ways?
See, the common challenge with RAG is hallucination.
Yeah.
And we built enough testing frameworks to make sure that our architecture is well protected enough. So far, we haven't faced any challenge.
Okay.
And also, the architectural approach that we took is more risk-based approach.
Okay.
So we start with no risk type use cases, which is applying RAG for internal AI for tech, and then get that trained, and then you go up all the way to the customer-facing applications, which is eventually how we delivered what we called Deluxe AI Assist.
Okay. What sort of safeguards or guardrails have you put in place in terms of data security, accuracy, ethical use, especially when applying AI to your business services?
I think that is as much as data is your asset and fuel, it is also your most riskiest thing to protect. Because as I said, trust has been one of the foundational element of Deluxe. And us being 110 plus year company, various financial institutions and banks trusted us with their data and their capabilities as well. So the approach that we take is we treat customer data as more critically than our own data.
Right.
So we are not only looking at the permissible use of the data, we are also looking at what is right by the customer when we use this data as well. So it comes in many forms. So it begins with what internally we have called compliance by design approach, which looks into every use case that we have to apply to see are we applying the data within all the lenses of the contractual obligation to legal and privacy and everything else. But then at the senior most level, we also defined AI executive committee. and it includes our CFO, HR, legal head, uh, myself from technology, head of operations. And the goal of that committee is we are not only leaving AI permissible use to the team, but on a frequent basis, we are discussing how we are using and the various type of use cases team is solving from that executive level as well. But eventually, if it is a customer facing applications, we have a dedicated client advisory board. And on a regular basis, we go in front of the advisory board that has representation from many of our top customers. So we discuss how we are approaching AI and usage of their data and get their consensus before we actually use it and roll out products as well. So by applying multiple safeguards, I believe we are making sure that we are doing what is right by the customers that we serve, more so than just representing our own company's interest.
Excellent. What are the biggest opportunities you see for Deluxe in the next 3 to 5 years from a digital and technology standpoint?
I think the biggest opportunity that every company has, in my opinion, is not only seeing AI and any other technological innovation as a cost optimization mechanism, but truly seeing that as a leapfrog opportunity. And that, in my opinion, we have a long way to go. And in 3 to 5 years, we have to upskill our talent. I seriously believe recently PwC published this research where they showed with the invent of AI, the organizational structures potentially could become diamond shaped instead of pyramid shaped, the triangle shape. What it basically means is now, if you think about diamond shaped organizational structure, that means entry level employees are going to be so minimum, and the middle layer is going to be so wide, and then the top layer will be smaller again. But the risk of getting into that, there are already job reports that entry level jobs are shrinking. But the risk of handling it that way is that you are not going to have an entry level to train them to become your mid level career. And the current mid level career folks are already facing pressure of upskilling themselves while they are also dealing with their own full time jobs and family responsibilities and everything else. So, for us to succeed in the future, in my opinion, many companies' job is not going to be technology and adapting technology, because AI is very hard to invent, but some companies are doing it really well, relatively easy to consume. But the real usage of AI is going to be, are we able to retrain our people
Yeah.
to reimagine how you would approach the problems that we solved in the last 50 years totally differently? And that, if I go back to my comment about entry level career and mid level career, in my opinion, entry level career folks are going to require more soft skills and business domain expertise as quickly as possible. But the mid career folks are going to require upskilling with the AI technology because they already have the soft skills and domain expertise and everything else.
Right.
So, how do you marry these two pieces together? And that, as you can imagine, is a huge cultural change management challenge.
Yeah.
So it is as much of human resources challenge than technological challenge. And inside Deluxe, we are partnering very closely between HR and technology to figure out how do we create joint upskilling program. It's not only focusing teaching technology, it is basically focused on things that I talked about: domain expertise, soft skill, and bringing entry level and mid career people together so the hierarchy does not become a barrier, and we can help them to learn from each other and help the company to advance forward.
Just briefly, talk a little bit about some of the soft skills that you're looking into now that you require for this.
So I did a lot of research, and I recently published the top 10 skills, but I'm not going to list all top 10 skills, but the top three would be: the number one is ability to ask questions. So, for example, if you look back in every company, customer acquisition, customer cross sell, targeting, customer service, all of that are the same problems that we are all trying to solve for many, many years. But every time technology changes, then you go back with, we came up with mobile channel, web channel, even telephone and text messaging. And now in the age of AI, how would you approach customer service? So that is what I mean by asking the question or even reframing the question that you already had. So that I think will be number one
Soft skill.
soft skill.
Yeah.
Number two would be critical thinking. So not just blindly building on something that you already have and then making some minor change, but then how do you really challenge? Is that the right thing to do? Is that the right way to handle that as well? Then the third one, in my opinion, would be deeply falling in love with the problem and really trying to figure out what is the outcome that you're going after. Then you're in between everything else, you should be willing to completely challenge it. So it is asking the right question, introducing critical thinking, and falling in love with the problem deeply without attaching yourself to the solution that we created.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've written a lot about soft skills, hard skills, certifications, that sort of thing. And I thought it was interesting that you talked about the different levels of career
Right.
and where the soft skills and the hard skills are going to apply. So the reskilling of middle management, the soft skill development, or at least looking for those candidates for the entry level employees.
Yeah.
What do you do with the executives?
That's a, a fantastic question. So actually, inside our company,
Yeah.
we are developing what we call 3x3. So it is AI skill level from beginner to intermediate to advanced, for entry level to mid career to executive. So we're not leaving executives alone in the training program. And I personally started with my peer group and the CEO on how we all should be thinking about AI. So when it comes to executives, my current research and the hypothesis is a smart executive who is usually connected with good network of executives, you always know which technology to take the bet on. And I'm pretty sure every CXO is talking about AI and how they want to invest in AI and what is the outcome they are trying to drive with AI. But the real challenge for executives is how do you really understand the technology and then use the technology to even reframe how would you be approaching the business problems and business challenges inside the company.
Right.
So for example, before AI, if you needed to have a strategic point of view on Genius Act impact or stablecoin impact, you would be hiring some three-letter big consulting firm, pay at least $500,000, give them 3 months for them to come up with a paper. So now you can actually go to Perplexity or even go to ChatGPT, and its deep research mode can bring you reliable, really meaningful first point of view on what is the impact of Genius Act, not just generic, but it can also give you a point of view on what is specific for your company. So I actually took this as a personal challenge and I developed a research paper on Genius Act for our company. It took me less than 2 hours, but I shared it with my entire executive team and the CEO. None of us were able to poke holes with the report that the AI produced. So the point that I'm trying to make is we can't leave it to say that, oh, executives don't have anything to do here. Now you can actually have a strategic point of view in minutes. What are we going to do with this? So how do we reframe that? So that's number one. Number two, most important in my opinion is, see, we all live in capital society, right? And we will continue to have pressure for margins and pressure for growth. But how are we going to balance between driving business growth and bringing our people along in the journey? And that, in my opinion, is the biggest challenge. So in the 3x3, what we are trying to do is how do we help each other in the executive team on the power of AI, but also the accountability of the leadership in using that AI along with humans.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk about these things. You had some great insights, and I've really enjoyed this.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it as well.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.